Oh, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, shehakol nidbarei.
Amen.
Chaim. Amen. Oh, waking me up. All right. Welcome, folks. We continue our mimer together. So we're explaining the difference between 2 months, Nisan and Iyar, and the events that take place in that month, sort of the defining events of the and what's defining. So we have the first month, and then we have the second month. That's how the Torah calls it, meaning that's what comes first, not which comes second. First comes Iskafia, then comes Ishafcha. First comes that we all have negativity on the inside. We all have our Egypt on the inside. That's what happened in the first month. We went out of Egypt. Egypt comes from the word in Hebrew, Mitzrayim, Meitzar, is the straits, the limitations, which is the negativity. Even bad things that are in our character quality that lead us to do, think, speak, and do things that are not appropriate. The first thing you need to do is to run away from that, move away from that, because that negativity will remain. And that's what Pesach is all about. That the matzah didn't have time, the bread didn't have time to rise because we were in a hurry to get out. When you think about it, like, so what? You're in a hurry to get out. So you make a big deal out of that? A whole holiday, you eat matzah just because you're in a hurry to get out? Like, that doesn't make sense. Well, actually, it makes sense based on what we just explained. What Egypt means, and to get out of Egypt, which you have a mitzvah every day to go out of Egypt, as the Haggadah says, "B'chol dor v'dor," in every generation, a person is obligated to see themselves. The Alter Rebbe adds to that in Tanya, "B'chol yom v'yom," every day we have an obligation to see ourselves going out of Egypt. As a matter of what we're learning Tanya now, inch by inch, very slowly, is this idea going out of Egypt. Right now, we're talking about how God goes out of his Egypt, so to speak. I don't know if his Egypt, but yeah, if you will. But we'll get there. So we have to first remove ourselves from the negativity. The negativity is in us. It's running after us, right? Think about it. Wherever you go, you take you along. So we think that we're going to change the situation, right? And all of a sudden, no, I'm not going to, I won't be triggered. Oh, it's true. You might not be as triggered if you are in a different situation, different person, different people, and so on. That's true. But it's still on the inside. It's still there. But okay, that's the first step that we have to take. And this is scafia, bending ourselves, not allowing that negativity, that Egypt inside of me to take hold. L'chaim for the first step. Then comes the second month, meaning the second step, Iyar, the month we're in now. And what defines it is that every day we have a mitzvah of Sfiras Omer, counting the Omer. Counting the Omer means that you're taking one of your attributes and refining it. We started off with chesed shebechesed, kindness within kindness. And each day, today is the 31st day of the Omer. Yom echad b'shleishim yom. Shem arba shvuos. B'shleishi yomim l'Omer. And it is Tiferet Sheba Hoid, compassion within, acknowledgement within humility. Anyways, and what does that mean? It means that we deal with that, transform it. That's the idea of Sfiras Omer. It's to transform, not to bend. Bend means someone said something and I was about to blurt something back to them. I bit my tongue. That's called to bend yourself, not to give in to your base nature. But that negativity was there. You just didn't express it in speech. The thought was there, initial thought. That's the first month. That's our first rung on the ladder. The second rung is his havcha, is transformative. That we deal with that particular attribute, and it's not there. It's been transformed. That's the idea of Sfiras Omer. Right. And of course, this is a difference between a Bal Tshuva and a tzaddik. A Bal Tshuva means they have the negativity still in them. They just had the tshuva and don't fall into that trap. They don't fall into the trap. They did tshuva. Right? They don't fall into that trap. And as a matter of fact, since they fell into the trap, says the sages say in the Talmud, and you're susceptible to that trap, to that negativity, to that negative behavior. So a person has to say, EFShe. It's not possible for me to, someone fell into the trap not eating kosher. So you have to say that it is possible and that could fall into that trap. And I don't like that thing. I hate it. A tzaddik, on the other hand, a righteous person, says, Efshi, it's possible. But God has commanded, and therefore, why they say it's possible? Why do you give the room for the possibility? It's because it never fell into the trap. So the truth is, we're all capable, even the righteous, but God declares differently. God declares not to fall into that trap. The one who fell into the trap had tasted the negativity and still has the negativity within them. So they can't say, well, pork is okay. No, pork is horrible. You have to have an emotional, hatred to that because you fell into it. and that gives you the greater strength that you won't fall into it again, to bend yourself. But the righteous person says, pork's wonderful, but I don't eat it because God says not to. So what's wrong with pork? Nothing wrong with pork, right? Now there's no emotional aversion to it by the tzaddik, in the sense, obviously not in the sense of doing it, but like, no, God says not. So, because since they have no emotional connection to it, they haven't stumbled with it, no emotional attachment to it, therefore they can speak that way. But the Baal Tshuva, who has an emotional attachment to it, and now has done tshuva, but the emotional attachment is still there, they used to love it. Or as I just read, an article of a guy who came to the Shabbos in the Shabbat in the Heights and has an emotional attachment to things that crawl on the bottom of the sea and other, So to do tshuva, you have to say, ugh. Why? Because you have the emotional attachment to it. Oh, sure. L'chai. Okay. So further understanding of, so why can't going out of Egypt be transformative? Again, going out of your personal Egypt, your personal negativity. Why can't that be transformative? Why is Spheres Aimer transformative? Why is that? Maybe just, bending yourself. Right? Why is it inherently that way? So this explains the Rebbe in the Maimer. Going out of Egypt, how do we go out? By the hand of God. It was an awakening from above, if you will. It was a revelation from above. It wasn't primarily inherently because of the work that the Jews did in Egypt. It was divine service. It wasn't because of divine service. It was God revealed to himself in a lofty manner, right? It wasn't through true day in, day out, divine service that made them ready on the inside. No, it didn't. It wasn't drawn internal. It wasn't internalized. Like, think about it. Any, experience that is like beyond you, greater than you, that you didn't prepare for properly. You experience it and it's great, but you don't internalize it. If you don't internalize it properly, then guess what? It's not transformative. As opposed to the counting of the Omer. Well, who counts? You and I. We count the Omer, right? Meaning the expression of the idea that it's coming, it's an awakening from within. We count the Aimer. We say, the prayer that comes with it. It's coming from within. Which means, right? Talking about here conceptually, what it is ideally. We can count the Aimer and maybe just, not be focused and not be attuned. Talking about what the meaning behind it is something that there's, your awareness, your integration of it in your mind, into your heart, it's internalized. And therefore it's transformative. That's the idea of it. Even though the revelation that comes of godliness through, David, even though the revelation that comes as a result is so lofty and beyond, but yet you created the vessel to contain it, maintain it. That's what you did. Hence, it can become internalized, as opposed to going out of Egypt, right? It wasn't through an angel. It was God himself. Think of the metaphor we have in Tanya of the king coming and taking the commoner who's living in a dunghill and taking him out from there. He didn't do anything. He didn't do anything to deserve that. He worked his way to become, a proper vessel for the king. No, that's completely from above. So yes, you're going to be thankful, but you can't internalize that and be transformative, right? Still a commoner. As opposed to counting the Aimer, that's from within. That's our engagement, our Avodah, our divine service. That's transformative. That's why the difference between the two. More on that to continue. I'm going to be late for Chumash Rashi. I'm going to be late for. Tanya though will be, of course, and Rambam. See you shortly. I'm going to be closer to 9 o'clock to give that class.